Hey all, it's Ryder, and I hope you're easing into the new season with grace. It's been a while since I played ESO, but some friends have coaxed me into playing again. Truthfully, if it wasn't for everyone's incredible support since I came back, I probably wouldn't have made another video, but you are all prime examples that the ESO community can be something we're all proud of. So thank you for choosing kindness and for making my days better. I know I said I wasn't going to make another build video, and while that's still mostly true, I also want to provide something that is mostly completed to help anyone overcome short-term frustrations felt by continuous experimentation. I think any and all build videos leave room for improvement, and mine follows this pattern. So if you're curious how you can adjust this build, please watch through the possible alterations section. This video is made for players of all skill levels, so if you're more experienced, please skip around in the video to find only the important information. I've created chapter divisions to assist with this. On your screen, I've attached the outline of today's video to help better orient yourself. Without further ado, let's move into the build. The goal of the build is centered around doing lots of AoE damage, and as such, every offensive skill on the line rewards that gameplay. Because many organized groups have many rolling healing over time effects, I also wanted to maximize the potency of a burst within a smaller window. If you're unfamiliar with these terms, I recommend watching the video posted on your screen and linked in the description. I've played around with a few sets, but the combination that worked best for me are provided with my Superstar screenshot linked on screen. We can run Mechanical Acuity front bar with Wretched Vitality back bar, the Monomyth Mythic, and Balorg. If you're unfamiliar or uninterested with my reasoning for each trait, CP, food choice, and Mundus, please pause the video to read the Superstar screenshot and then skip ahead. None of this is groundbreaking technology in any way, but rather taking advantage of critical damage. As it currently stands, weeks before the Dragonite class changes, critical damage still offers some of the highest damage potential in the game, and while I'm not normally a fan of the long Mechanical Acuity cooldown, I made this build easy to manage, and you have to be somewhat intentional about accidentally activating its effects. You may notice that we're a vampire, and I always use stage 4 for open world fighting. The ability to stealth on demand is incredibly strong, and we heavily utilize the Vamp ult when we're outnumbered. You can run this without, though I wouldn't recommend this. We go with Wretched Vitality instead of the classic Rallying Cry. Truthfully, until I started modifying Kieran's DK build, which I love and you should totally go watch and use, I didn't appreciate Wretched Vitality as much and would always use Rallying Cry. This definitely makes our build a bit less survivable in one aspect, but we can sustain longer fights, which is absolutely crucial to live until your next burst window. For the skill lines, we're using Adric Spear and Animal Companions with your choice of your base class resolve line. Personally, I prefer Restoring Light as it makes the game feel a bit more cozy for me. This isn't the best choice, and I recognize that. So if you would prefer to min-max a bit more, Storm Calling not only hits harder, but is easier to survive some open world fights on. While I don't want to get ahead of myself and go to the alterations section immediately, I know that every class's resolve line will give you some benefit that is worth taking, so this build is playable on any class. You'll have a bit of different strengths and weaknesses, but I know playing a specific character is important to some people. For the skills, they are displayed on screen, but if you're unfamiliar, I will quickly read them aloud. Biting Jabs, Toppling Charge, Deep Fissure, Quick Cloak, but more on this later, Deceptive Predator, and the front bar ultimate is any AoE of your choice, but I prefer Thrive in Chaos. For the back bar, we use Wield Soul with the scripts shown on screen, Resolving Vigor, Bull Netch, Restoring Focus, Extended Ritual, and then the Vampire ult. For weapon traits, absolutely use Charged as they heavily increase your DPS on jabs. Other traits are okay, but for specifically biting jabs, Charged outclasses them heavily. For jewelry, I really enjoy Bloodthirsty, and I wouldn't really recommend this trait on many other builds outside of those using Acuity. But in my clips, you'll notice that the game does not want to process my jabs when my opponents are low HP, and it's absolutely infuriating sometimes. And Bloodthirsty offers higher offensive pressure at the expense of your healing output. What I mean by this is when you compare this to Infuse, which offers a healthy balance between healing output and damage output, Bloodthirsty is only damage output, but this is really important on our build because the less opportunities we have to mess up our Acuity timer, the better. My Monomyth has protection on it, but you can also try Swift, and I might actually recommend that with more testing. I'm using a Restoration Staff back bar, which isn't common, but I prefer this. Because I'm using both Stamina Netch and Stamina Rune, my Stamina Sustain is fantastic, but my Magicka could be lacking at times, especially when facing a more skilled opponent or when I'm outnumbered. As such, the Restoration Staff passives appealed to me for the heavily increased Magicka return rate and increasing healing output on a build that already heals a lot. The CP is listed on screen, but I invite everyone to try the Reaving Blows CP. At the moment, I can't tell if the CP is a noob bait trap, or if it's just not widely recognized by the player base for some reason. As a community, we should absolutely test this or offer your experiences within the comments below. I think it might be good, but I can't say for certain yet. If your baseline is not Restoring Light, I may advise an Ice Staff instead of a Restoration Staff, but this is build dependent and you're going to have to make this judgment call for yourself. For food, I use Jewels of Misrule for better sustain, but Bewitched Sugar Skulls are perfectly acceptable, especially if you're running at lower vampire stages. To conclude, we're just using the Shadow Mundus, and there's really nothing to compare to this, as everything else is just lower version of Shadow for us. The build's strength relies on its incredibly potent burst windows to all targets within your immediate vicinity. This not only means all of your damage equally hits every person, but single target heals from enemies won't automatically target the lowest health player you're focusing down, and as everyone will be taking significant damage. This also means temporary summons such as Engine Guardian's Dwemer, Necromancer's Blastbones, and especially Sorcerer Pets are no longer damage blockers for your opponents. We fully take advantage of the turn and burn style of gameplay, waiting for enemies to stack before unleashing a devastating burst onto them. The build is pretty tanky for not having Rallying Cry or Pariah, and especially so with either Restoring Light or Stormcalling Streak, and with good positioning, you should have no problem surviving outnumbered. We also have great mobility with Deceptive Predator, and the addition of Major and Minor Evasion minimize AoE damage from Bombers, Dawnbreakers, and so on. I'd also like to note how simple the build is, relying on less of a combo of abilities and rather a reading of your Acuity cooldown timer. The build definitely works best in the hands of a player who can read their opponents better, but the average or new player can absolutely get a lot of mileage out of this build. The build does okay in dueling environments, though I would not recommend this as a build to absolutely use in these cases. Our entire kit is built around dealing damage to multiple targets, and we quickly lose value as target numbers decrease. This isn't to say it's bad by any means. I fought against many players who are skilled in the last week of testing this, and it holds up pretty well. I'm able to win most of my 1v1s, but definitely not against everyone. When facing builds with mostly single target abilities, the build struggles to compete to the same degree, but that's balanced game design, and I don't really have a problem with that. If I had to assign some metric to this build's strengths in a 1v1, I would say that we're operating at about 80% capacity due to Shulks missing the target at times and how tooltips are designed with cleave damage in mind. Some players might also not like the long cooldown on Acuity, and I absolutely understand that. The build takes a lot more patience than other builds, but this is the nature of turn and burn builds. If you're aiming for more consistency at the expense of potency, I recommend using a critical chance set such as Mother Sorrow, Order's Wrath, or even Medusa. For the rotation, I'll break it into two parts as you'll be swapping between two modes of gameplay. For the offensive rotation, it's incredibly simple. Before your Acuity is active or you initiate the fight, place all of your buffs down. Do not proceed if any buffs are inactive, as it's crucial to maximize your success rate within the first few Acuity activations. Open up with placing down a Deep Fissure, followed by a Thrive in Chaos, or your choice of AoE ultimate. I really enjoy using the Vampire ultimate, but I also understand it's really scummy to use in a 1v1, so you won't be seeing me do that often. From here, continue jabbing until your Shulks have 1 second left until detonation, or up to 2 seconds if you're far away from your target. From here, use Toppling Charge to stun the enemy, guaranteeing your second Shulk hits the target. Then as usual, just continue jabbing. The rotation is remarkably simple and effective, but try to practice this as you play, as any error can add up to your opponent's survival if stuns or bursts are mistimed. For the defensive rotation, this just depends. If you're in a 1v1, just heal and activate Hots, Cleanses, and restore heavy attacks to activate Major Mending. In the open world, this is highly contextual. The sooner you can disengage from a fight to reset, the better. Utilizing Deceptive Predator or other mobility skills can help this step. Your priority should be getting to cover, and the other defensive options help you buy time to achieve this step. do not attempt to sit and block all of the damage, as this build does not support that type of gameplay. Though, I recognize in duels, you should absolutely not kite your enemy. If you're Vampire Stage 4, you can set up all of your hots and bursts to buy you the 4 seconds needed to enter stealth and exit the fight. But in cases where pressure is too high, roll dodge between abilities and always keep Deceptive Predator up while you weave between and around obstacles. If you're not needing to flee the fight per se, still try to break up line of sight on your attackers and complete heavy attacks on the back bar to build ultimate up. Because we run Monomyth, this will take a bit longer than other mythics, but we can supplement this with traits such as Decisive. This build can be changed a lot if you'd rather play a certain character. The build absolutely works best for offensive pressure with Stormcalling, so if you're interested in the absolute best version of this, use Stormcalling. I've run a few dummy tests to understand the DPS difference, sampling each build variation at least 30 times to secure statistically sound results, and Restoring Light's average DPS was around 47,000, and Stormcalling's DPS was 62,000. Quick Cloak can be swapped out for preference. If you're on a team, an additional shield could be useful, but I recommend incorporating Minor Force in some way to increase your damage by effectively 10%. I tried this build with Contingency with a Minor Force script, and it worked well, especially with Immobilization to keep opponents still for jabs. But I've also run this build with the two-handed and Onslaught and Executioner, but ultimately, where I settled with this build is I really like Quick Cloak the most. I think it gives me the most utility and the most generalized approach to the build. A potential champion point change to make would be the inclusion of Occult Overload to secure more AoE kills, and I might incorporate this at some point, especially with the addition of an immobilizing or AoE stun skill. My issue is sometimes I would be running this skill and enemies weren't stacked up enough, so I wasn't getting value out of one of my 4 blue champion points, but this isn't going to be every case. The better single target stun is Binding or Piercing Javelin, but I find the Gap Closer to be essential for a lot of reasons, including the major protection. If running Stormcalling, this obviously can be erased in favor of Streak, and again, I do actually recommend Stormcalling more than Restoring Light for this build. Ring of the Wild Hunt is an interesting consideration to be made as well. We would be losing 20% critical damage, which definitely hurts, but surviving could become much easier, and securing some kills in some cases as well. I don't think this would be a meta top tier option, but I see potential in re-exploring this mythic. I know that was a lot of yapping, so I really appreciate everyone who stuck around. I see some hope for the game on the horizon, but I also don't want to fall susceptible to more of Zos's empty rhetoric. It's everyone's support that brought me back, so I'll close out the video with some acknowledgements. I thank Pelican for being a large influence on my video creations many years ago, way before I even knew I would post a video, and especially so for putting jabs back on the radar. I've wanted to incorporate jabs for a while now, and players such as himself, VCrest, and Agrotychus have encouraged me to keep going. I also want to thank Kieran Blaze for providing an exciting build to play with that led to this build's creation and reframed the way I viewed Wretched Vitality. His willingness to share information would be in vain if it stopped with me, so I hope you all continue to spread your knowledge just as he has. He and Frizzy have coaxed me into playing the game again, even though they abandoned me over an EP after having me fucking faction swap over, but I still appreciate their support and practice as I continue to tweak my builds. We live in an age where every fight is recorded, clipped, and uploaded for egos, and so I'm glad to have friends who I can actually practice with, rather than accidentally feed a clip farm. I'd also like to acknowledge that another content creator named Hulk made a build really similar to this, and I just found out through the Deathmatch Discord as I was recording this video. I would be remiss to claim that my ideas are the only ones available, so please go watch his channel and go watch his video on this to get more information and support his channel out. And last but definitely not least, everyone who has sent me a kind message over the past few months. You are all so incredible and genuinely drive me to keep making new videos. None of you had to say anything, but the fact that you made a conscious choice to reach out and say something nice is really welcome in the grim state of the world. Continue this choice with everyone around you, and we can all make our limited lives a time where we can actually be ourselves. I'll close out with the video with some montages over the past few days. If you enjoyed, make sure you do the YouTuber thing where you like and subscribe and comment yada yada, and remember to really embrace the seasonal changes. Until next time, take care.